right.
Let's do this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another iAnimate podcast, our 80th and final one for 2020. I'm your host, Larry Vasquez. My other host, Rick Arroyo. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for 2021. And as always, we're going to end the year really strong, really solid.
With a bang. Yeah. This podcast was awesome. Omar, this is something we had recorded prior, but he just did a fantastic job with this podcast. Sometimes you never know how someone's going to, and he just ran with it. And so it's a really great podcast. And you mentioned a word that I liked as a kind of descriptive for him and his story was resilient. Yes, resilient is an important word, and a word that I think we should all resonate. You guys, everyone that comes to iAnimate, we work hard. We work hard together with the students, and we motivate our students, we push our students. And that's something I think it's really important to realize, when you choose a school and you choose an instructor, that you know what you're getting. And, our instructors are super dedicated because we've been through it. We know what it's like, and we know what you need to do to get at that top level, right? Absolutely. I mean, Omar's worked in VFX, he's worked in gaming, he's worked on such movies as Paddington, really fun one there, Detective Pikachu, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Yeah. He's animated. He's been a supervising animator. He's been a head of animation. He's been a director. So when you start talking about, when you start talking about, he'd been through these kind of things. He's worn many hats in this industry. So absolutely. A very, very fun podcast. And I think, as you mentioned here, just a great way to end off 2020 with an amazing story and a guy who just loves this industry. So. Yeah, he loves animation, and something that is, part of iAnimate is to give and help others, right? That is something that we're really big in, and you're gonna see it, you're gonna sense it, you're gonna wish that you had him right next to you as you learn and grow. But all to say, I just wanted to make sure everyone realized, 2020 is over. Now it's 2021 around the corner. And like I said in an interview, I said, it's important that you choose you, choose yourself, choose your success, own it, be responsible for it, dedicate time to where you want to go. Because the things you do right now will have an impact, 5-10 years from now. You're going to be, thank goodness I put time into learning, time into progressing and growing as an artist. So absolutely, that's really important. Absolutely. So as we finish off this year, we wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. And we hope to see many of you guys here. If you guys got New Year's resolutions, to join us, and we'll look forward to seeing you in classes. So absolutely. Well, let's jump into this great podcast, man. All right. We ready, gentlemen?
You guys have your questions ready?
No,
we'll go
even better.
Off the fly.
Even better.
Organic.
That's right.
I love it.
All right, Omar. Well, first off, we really just appreciate talking with you. I had a chance to talk with you last week and saw your calendar, and it is booked. So anytime that we can get a little bit of your time, we really appreciate it. So thanks so much for joining us on this podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This is fun. My pleasure.
Killer. All right. So this is probably a little bit of break for you, huh? You get to talk some animation here. So
it's still about animation, though, so it's not much of a break. My morning starts with animation and ends with animation.
There you go.
I mean, it's a lifestyle, man.
That's
you
right.
Got into this because
really
animation is a lifestyle. That's what I said. Like Omar's a director, and it's a lifestyle. You wake up to it, you sleep to it, and you dream about it.
That's right.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I can't even enjoy a movie anymore. Every single movie. What can I learn? What can I learn? I love how they did that. That doesn't work at all. So, you bring it back to your work. It's definitely a lifestyle. And
that's right.
Walk outside and you observe people, and you look at people, and you look at animals or anything that's moving, even a tree that's moving in the wind. Honestly, it's something to learn from. So
that's killer.
Yeah, I started that when I was very young, working on this movie called Pinocchio 3000, where I had my lead animator named Aaron Hatfield. And he told me, you're going to have to start, I was a 25-year-old guy and I was lifting a lot of weight. And so he's having me animate a 12-year-old girl. And I know nothing about that. So but when you have to study that, and you have to, in life in general, Omar, moving forward, everything you look at is related to animation. And I never, I really held that dear to my heart. So it's, and it is the case actually. It's everything every day that passes is and I'm looking at things and I'm observing is stuff that I can actually take and put it in the bank. And I take that experience and I put it in the bank. And you know what, man, you end up really using it in your work. Oftentimes when you're animating a character and you want to make it something called immersive realism. So immersive realism is when there's the most important thing in animation is that the audience is immersed in your work. So they are watching the animation. There is things and observations, little details that they watch and they look at and they're like, oh, you know what? I have a friend that moves exactly like that. Or how original is the way that character moves? It is not generic. Immersive realism is the absolute opposite of generic. Once they are connected to the character, they are now immersed, and they are immersed because of its realism. And so when you take all that information and you put it in the bank, you look at how these people move and you put that in the bank, you watch how that animal gets up, and it's not a simple A to B getting up. There are nuances in there. You watch that observation and you put that in the bank, you are able to then retrieve all of that information and watch. Like, so for example, when I watch an animation that somebody has produced, that's always on the back of my mind. Where is the immersive realism? Is there something in there that I can see, that I can obviously see that it's not generic, it's not cliche, it's not your straight first idea that comes to mind. There's always a real sense of realism in there. And so you learn that just by observation, by looking at people, by looking at nature. But anyway, that's animation. So you never move away from it.
That's right.
7, yeah.
You know, we had a podcast prior with one of our other feature instructors, Tara Donovan. And one of the things we talked about was just kind of doing things outside of, you know, specifically animating. And she does like powerlifting. And what was interesting, though, is when she was bringing that back to animation, because she was working on Godzilla and King Kong, I think. And she's like, as I'm animating that weight shift, she's like, I literally like am feeling it in my body, because my mind's going to having weight up underneath me and such, you know. So any observation, anything that you can kind of take back to animation is a big bonus there.
It's funny you say that. There's actually it happened to me in Concordia University. My animation teacher back then, I was a 2D animator back then. I wasn't studying 3D at all. And I had to animate, I was animating an exercise where it's a cycle. So I decided I was going to have somebody do, what do you call it? Back extension pull downs. Yeah. And so when I did it, I mean, thanks to my lack of experience, it was just arms moving and that's it. Back then I was lifting weights as well. And I remember my animation teacher saying, it looks like you've never lifted weights in your life.
Straight to you, man. That's the best.
I was deeply offended by that, because not only was it an insult to my physical being, but it was an insult to work as well. And it stuck with me. You know, it's like the character, you know, like understand how the body mechanics works when you're pulling that weight. Yeah,
Right. I want to get into, you know, how you got into animation, but one of the things you hit upon I thought was interesting here is you mentioned Pinocchio 3000, and my memory bank, because this is going to be our 80th podcast. I remember hearing that Dave Hubert and both you, Rick, as well worked on that movie, right?
That is right. That's right. Back in the days. Yeah.
Pulled that one out of the back pocket there.
Honestly, I really feel that all these guys that worked on Pinocchio 3000, we were the pioneers of animation in Montreal. We were the first wave of animators, and we all came together. You know, all these people now are like, you know, Rick is a big shot, and you know, you got Marco Folia who's doing great, Johnny Spinelli's doing great, Hubert is doing great, and we all started in the same spot at the same time. It was a great experience, and thank goodness I was a part of it.
Very cool.
It's humbling when you think about it.
I was green. I knew nothing about animation. I came out of Concordia University and, you know, only strictly 2D animation, thinking that, you know, I knew how I could manage animation, and I realized very quickly that I had to I had to learn quite a bit. You know, you learn in 2-3 weeks at working on Pinocchio 3000 was equal to a lifetime of.
I mean, it was a big jump, man. There was we had the beasts of beasts from Toronto and Montreal, and I think we had someone also from Vancouver. It was like a beast of a team, and everyone was so young, right? It was fearless animator, and I talk about this often, being fearless, but being clever, right? There's being smart and hardworking, but then there's being clever, and it was a great time. And that team, it was a really good team, and it was a fun team. Some really good talent. Even Matt, you know, from ILM, and it's like, wow, it was. I made
lifetime friends there. Alan Trites is one of my dearest best friends, and he was in my team. We were. Yeah,
that's true. Alan Trites is a director at Ubisoft now, and like.
Those are formidable type projects and stuff, huh?
Yeah, it really was. And it was, at that point, it was the biggest project you can find in Montreal. And again, to be part of it, it was, I couldn't be luckier to be having been part of it. And the crazy thing is that, you know, sincerely, and I say this absolutely, I'm very sincere when I say this, I did not deserve that position. When I came in as a junior animator, again, I knew nothing. So much so that Aaron Hadfield, my lead animator, while he was delegating shots to every animator, I said this story to my students at iAnimate at the workshop. I explained exactly what my experience was, because of the exercises that they have to do were the exact same exercises that Aaron Hadfield gave me while everybody else was getting shots. I was doing the bouncing ball because he quickly realized I couldn't animate. I was doing the bouncing ball. I was doing the sidestep. I was doing stationary jump, bat swing, walk cycle. And after every exercise, it was so embarrassing. Can you imagine? Everybody around you is animating shots while little old me is doing a bouncing ball, doing a sidestep, and doing a stationary jump. But I could not have been more lucky to have that experience, to be taught by somebody of that caliber. By step, all the tricks of the trade. And if it was a blow to the ego, it was well worth it.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
And that's exactly what I tell my students is I pay it forward. I don't do it for the money. I don't do it. I just do it because I want to give back, because what I received was tremendous knowledge. It was tremendous knowledge in a very short period of time. A little bit like what we do at the workshop, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Tremendous knowledge in a very short period of time. And it is doable because I succeeded in it. You know, the first exercise I did was the bouncing ball. Okay, what's next? Can you give me a shot? Sidestep, Omar. The sidestep. I smashed the sidestep with his guidance, of course, to the frame by frame. I finished the sidestep. Can I get a shot?
No.
Walk cycle, Omar. After the walk, stationary jump, the bat swing. The bat swing was a really good experience because it taught me a really good, a very good lesson. He wanted a bat swing. That was my last exercise. To me, I was like, that's it. I'm getting a shot after this one. I am going to create the most ambitious, the biggest, the best bat swing you could possibly do. And so what I ended up doing was I had her swinging, and all he wanted was the bat swing. See, I'm sure you can guess what happened after. I had the bat swing. She swings. She misses. She loses the bat, trips over. He pressed play for the first time, watched the whole thing, shocked, looked at me with anger.
You don't own the shot, man. You don't own the shot. How many times do we have to say it? I love you guys, but it's not yours.
Exactly. Who are you to change the story? I told you exactly what needed to happen. You know, you can get in the skin of the character. You can reflect in the way you swing that bat, or the way you hold that bat, or what happens after you swing that bat. Don't go changing the story.
Don't go.
Lesson learned, huh?
Yeah.
Lesson learned. I had to redo the bat swing. He was flexible from scratch.
Another gold nugget. Like, like, and this is what, you know, we tell our students when they come to workshops, and what Omar is doing. And I mean, Omar is another a great example of dedicated to animation, paying it forward, really knows what it takes. We all been there, you know, we all like felt lost. We were like, we're alone, and we like realized like, oh my God, this is much bigger than me. And we had to go through it. Omar is a great example. And again, even he lived it. It's like, hey, this is not your shot, right? And when you take a workshop at iAnimate, and if, you know, there's something happening, you're struggling something, we treat you like we're your directors. When you join the workshop, we are your directors. Everyone at iAnimate is either a director, supervisor, or at that level, right? But we treat you like it was director, but you get that little cushion of you know, leeway. But the fact that he just shared this true story is like, I remember.
You were there.
We had, yeah. And there's like, we had amazing animators. We, you know, we had some Disney animators, and actually, like Omar said, this was a big feature. This was the second feature in Montreal. There's the one before what we talked about with Patrick, you know, Kana, the prophecy, or AKA I was Access, was the first one. And a lot of these, I'm trying not to say bad words, but really top talent animators came here and really drilled everyone even further. So
nice.
This is awesome, Omar.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you had a 2D background, and maybe this can kind of segue us to how you got into animation, because you mentioned this is kind of your first go with CG, right? At Pinocchio. Okay, so you got in. So you had a 2D background. How did you even get into animation to begin with?
So when I was a kid, I'm very, very lucky to have found a passion very early on, and I stuck to it today. There was something about this brain where when I was a child, everything I loved as a child, I still love today. I never grew up. Very lucky in that I never grew up. I loved animals back then. I'm still crazy about animals today. You know, anyway, so when I was a child, I was absolutely, I was always drawing. And ever since I was a kid, I was drawing. I remember my mom, and my mom was my greatest cheerleader. She would look at my drawings and she would always make me feel like I was the best artist on planet Earth. And so she gave me that confidence and had me practice my drawings over and over and over until I became pretty damn good at it when I was a kid. Then I remember at that time, I did not know that I wanted to be an animator yet. All I knew is that I loved drawing. And this one, we're talking about 6 years old, you know, 6, 7 years old. I was a baby. One thing I did was I had a VHS cassette of 101 Dalmatians.
All right.
And I put it in my VCR and I pressed play. And there was a scene where the mother bites a burglar, the thief, the kidnapper, the guys that stole all the puppies. She breaks into their warehouse. She finds all of her puppies. Her mother instincts kick in, and she lunges at one of the goons and bites them right in the butt. Now I wanted to draw the shot where where her mouth was wide open, all the teeth and everything, right? Cool shot, the cool frame. So I pressed play, pause play, pause play, pause play, so I can find that one frame. And I found it. And I was shocked at just how ugly the drawing actually was.
Oh, funny.
And I'll explain. Her mouth was not like this. It was like this. Completely wide open. And I look at that, I'm like, a mouth of a dog doesn't open that much. So I rewinded, I pressed play and I looked at it, but I couldn't see it. And I realized later on, I found out it was a frame of exaggeration. And so that started getting my intrigue into animation.
The little magic behind it. How'd they do that?
The magic started appearing. So there was another shot. Again, VHS cassette, pause play. At that point, that's what I just loved Disney. I wanted to draw Disney. So there was one tiger that was rotating its head from here to here. And I wanted to get this frame. Pause play, pause play, pause play, pause play. Well, where is this frame? It doesn't happen, it doesn't exist. I swear I know there's a frame. For sure there's a frame. But there wasn't a frame. When you look at spacing, and this is something you explained in the workshop, when you look at spacing, you never want to put spacing right smack in the middle. You always put a little bit before or a little bit after, unless you are exploring or you are pushing an arc. Then you want to put it right in the middle. However, in general, you want to stay away from smack in the middle. And so what I ended up realizing is that my brain is telling me that there is a frame in the middle when there isn't a frame in the middle. And to me, that was magic. And it made me fall madly in love with animation. And then I was just gorging into animation. So
Gotcha.
I went and I got, and I still have the book. I have to find it really quickly. It's somewhere around here. I went and I got a book about animation, and I just drank it all in, page after page. I can't even tell you hours and hours I spent reading and studying animation. And ever since then, I knew I was going to be an animator. It was a 2D animator. Back then, there was no 3D. 2D animation. I was drawing, I was practicing. When I went to CJEP, every class I took in creative arts, and by the way, that was something my father was very much against. So animation in Montreal, back when I was a kid, there wasn't much of an industry.
No, there was nothing.
A little bit, but there was.
Yeah, there was, which I
and,
forgot to studio.
And not only that, but my grades were pretty good in chemistry, in sciences. And my father, you know, God bless him, being an immigrant in Montreal, he wanted absolutely that I succeed. And he wanted to ensure that I do not struggle as he struggled. And so when I told him that I was leaving chemistry after having grades of 98%, and I wanted to be an animator, I remember him screaming, Samia, Samia is my mom's name. Samia, he wants to draw people in the street. That's how he started. He was going to be a starving artist. My son's going to be a starving artist after he's getting great grades in sciences. And so I had to prove to him that I could work in the industry. Before I switched into creative arts, before I switched from sciences into creative arts, I had to prove to him that there was work in the industry. So what did I do? In CJEP, I went knocking on every studio's door. And I would say, if there's anything I can do, any job that I can do, give it to me. The first job they gave me was lifting boxes. I got a job at a place called Toontech in Montreal, and I was lifting boxes. But I didn't mind. Those boxes were stacked full of gold animation. It was Saturday morning cartoon crap, but it was animation. I had my hands on animation. And so I was stacking boxes. And I was always trying to be as pleasant as possible, you know, make friends at work, prove to them that I could and will one day be one of them. But again, I turned back to my dad and I say, look, I got a job in the industry. I was lifting boxes. And in the industry, I made it. And he allowed me to go into creative arts. And then every class I took in creative arts, I wanted to make sure that it could serve somehow animation.
Gotcha.
Back then in Champlain College, there was no animation class. And so I took drawing from figure, I took painting, I took sculpting, I took pottery, whatever it is that anything creative that gets me going. And so I went from lifting boxes to being a scanner, going from being a scanner where I would scan images, which is because you're scanning images and you're putting in what's called a dope sheet. All of that information, frame by frame, you're starting to understand how animation works. And then I went from being a scanner to a colorist, and then from a colorist to a assistant comper, all of which still was in 2D. By then, I was in Concordia University in film animation, studying animation. So once I graduated from Concordia University, I was engaged at the time to my wife. Animation died, 2D animation died. It was crazy, honestly. And I remember it. We were all outside and our card would not let us in the door. And we were about 35, 40 artists outside until the big boss came in and explained to us that we lost all the contracts, and it was overnight.
Oh man.
Lost everything.
I remember that.
I believe China. It was back then in 2D. I panicked. What the hell am I going to do? I mean, how am I going to turn around and look at my dad in the eyes? And what am I going to do with, I wanted to get married, a couple of years later, I would get married. And so I begged my dad to borrow me, lend me some money and let me get a computer and start studying Softimage, XSI.
Yeah.
And I produced the worst animation possible. And I took that animation, I went to Cinegroup for Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And I said to these guys, I said, listen, here's animation I can animate. Trust me, I'll learn, I'll do everything it takes. They look at the animation like, oh, I can't hire. This is horrible. So I said to, I believe his name is Christian back then.
Yeah, Christian was
the Christian, right?
Yeah.
I said, you see that computer over there in the corner? Let me sit on it for just a couple of days. And back then they knew me because Cinegroup was before Toontech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was the great, gift of me actually working at Toontech allowed me to make all these connections with Cinegroup.
Yeah, it was a division, yeah.
They knew me, they trusted me. But, I couldn't animate, so I had to prove to them. So I did a small little animation exercise using the Pinocchio rig, and Pinocchio was going in front of this piece of wood, and he would karate chop this piece of wood, but he would miss, and that piece of wood slapped him in the face, and he went flying up, and he fell down. Overall, the animation was terrible. However, when Tony Sparapari, God bless him, saw that I had a bit of hang time in the air before I fall on the floor, because I knew a little bit about spacing, arcs and spacing, a little bit, just enough. He's like, you got the job, Omar.
Very cool.
You're junior animator.
Yeah.
And of course, when Aaron Hatfield started seeing my work, he was like, I don't know how to animate. Bouncing ball, sidestep, give me all that stuff. So that was my history in animation.
What's funny is that we had a podcast couple back with Patrick Cusiano, and we had mentioned something about, just talking about his dedication. And he's like, he kind of almost half corrected us, and he goes, it was desperation. And it's very similar to what you're talking about here. You're like, and it's maybe some of those are kind of similar, that dedication and desperation are kind of the outcomes are the same to a certain degree, but it sounds like you were very much in the same boat. How am I going to talk with my dad? How am I going to talk with my future, my fiance? I got to make this thing work.
In one basket. This was it. I did 5 years of education, and the whole time I'll prove them wrong. I'll prove I can make a living with, doing this. And I never wanted to make big money. I didn't care about that. Like, all I cared about was, and it stems from one thing. Sorry, my cat just entered the room. It stems from one thing. I remember sitting in my car with my dad. And again, like I said, my dad is an extremely educated man. In Egypt, he had a degree in computer science and agriculture. He had 2 degrees. And he comes to Montreal and ends up being a cook. And so I remember looking at my dad in the car, he's driving towards his restaurant. And I said, do you like your job? And he looked at me like my job? No one likes their job. And that marked me. I was like, not me, man. I'm going to love my job. I'm going to do I can so that I don't have to hate my Monday mornings. So that was my story. So
nice.
And again, it was desperation. I had no backup. There was no plan B. It was animation, and I had to make it.
Nice.
Yeah, for the audience, right? For all our listeners, all those animators and artists out there, right? And this story comes often, with Patrick and even with Omar and those, like, here and there I shared my story. I just putting my foot in the door and just going, 6 a.m. at the studio like Omar to practice and prove your worth or that you can do it. You have to be dedicated. You have to fight for your career. You can't expect someone else to fight for your career. It is your choice. It's your success. You have to put in the time and commitment and own it. Own whatever happens. If it doesn't work out, then you continue. And those, and if you want to get better, quicker and get real guidance, that's why you come, you find someone. What we're doing is like an apprenticeship. Back in the days, you were an apprentice, right? Like what Omar did was an apprenticeship, right? You could not animate. I remember I said this many times. I couldn't animate until I had the whole shot planned out. It was all thumbnailed. It was all figured out on the dope sheet. And then, the lead and the director would say, yes, I like this idea, go execute. But you had to fight for it. And the fact you're hearing it right now and you're going to learn and get that same passion. And he knows what it takes. He knows what you want to do, and he's going to push you there. Man, I'm so happy that you have the time to come and teach at iAnimate. Mm-hmm. Anyone would be, they're extreme. Rich. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
And I'm really hard, but I gotta say,
Yeah. No, it's true. What you said is 100% true. I get so many people coming up to me. They connect me on LinkedIn. They call me up, and for me, it's animators. It's like family. I view all animators like my family. And I say this because I remember the first time I finally entered an animation class where I knew that everybody in that class were animators, and I started hearing them talk, and I was like, oh my God, I'm home. Finally, I'm surrounded by peers that understand me.
We're speaking the same language right now.
They're one of me, you know what I mean? So I love to pay it forward. So I don't hesitate to give people my personal number or my emails or whatever. I don't care, honestly. I've never regretted it. Oftentimes people will come in, even in my own home, and will have tea with me, and they ask me basically, how do I make it in the industry? And I sit down and I explain every single step of all the things that they have to do. The first thing they have to do, the most important thing, is be passionate about it. Yeah. You have to love it. If you love it, if you're truly passionate, that's going to fix itself. It'll just be a snowball.
It'll get you through winter, man. It'll get you through winter, all the hard times.
Yeah,
it'll get you, because you're going to get a lot of no's, right? A lot of no's. Exactly. What's this? It doesn't work. Exactly. Do it again. No, You're not ready. Sorry. You're going to get that, but your passion's going to pull you through, man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the most important thing, is that they are passionate about animation. They love what they do. And if they're not passionate about it and they see it as a chore, it's not going to work out. So the first thing they have to do is be passionate. The second thing they have to do is find an artist, an animator that you would love, and they become to you somebody you idolize. So for example, Milt Kahl for me.
Oh, God.
One of the 9 old men, Milt Kahl for me.
He's a beast.
And it's crazy because I remember being a kid, Rich, and I was watching all of these films, and I remember specifically watching all of his shots and thinking, wow, that's amazing. Wow, not knowing that those were his shots.
Yeah.
Learning later on that those were specific shots from Milt Kahl. So anyway, for me, Milt Kahl. Why? So that you understand the history of animation. It's not just good enough to jump in and just roll with it. You should know the history of the thing that you're going to be working on, right? If you decide that you're going to be an animator, you are deciding that 40 hours a week, 4 weeks out of the year, every month of the year, you are spending your life doing this. Get to know what it is that you're doing. Not just the task that you have at hand, but the history of that task as well, so that it feeds your passion, helps you with your passion, because passion, it goes up and down, right?
Yeah.
So you want to always be able to feed it. There's ways of feeding it, many different ways of feeding it. Knowing the history of animation helps you feed it. Then after that is get your name out there. Get yourself a LinkedIn account if you don't have one. Start following people. Start watching other people's work. And then most importantly, start animating. No excuse. Everybody can start animating. At this point in the world, it is so accessible to you.
That's right.
So if the passion is there, all of that will happen. If the passion is not there, and you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like it, and you don't feel like it, and another day passes and you don't feel like it, you're not going to make it. The good news is there's a lot of people that are like that. So the competition is not that fierce. If you're passionate, The competition is not that fierce. You'll make it.
I love. There's a sense of truth to that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there is, you know, I mean, you know, the film industry and TV industry is on the verge of exploding, right? There's so much happening. You know, we can't talk about it. There's a lot of things on a lot of studios' tables, and yeah. I mean, you can get a nice job, you can get a good position, but if you want to get up there, not everyone can get there, and it's true. No. There's not that much competition, and you really need to put everything into it. And what I said, or what I like to say to those I coach is, and some of them are much older because they want to become directors, I say you need to take care of your passion, your creativity, and your career like it's your own kid, right? Yeah. You Absolutely. Gotta, you know, you wake up to it. You gotta feed it. You gotta, you know, make sure it does its homework, take its shower. You gotta play with it. You got, you know, you gotta take it is your family, your passion, your art, your animation is you. It is everything of you. So
it's your brand. That. Your name is your brand. As I say this all the time to my students. You are responsible for your own brand.
Yes. Yeah.
The time that you spend as a child doodling and drawing, you think you're wasting that time. You are actually making money. When you're a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old kid drawing on a piece of paper that you're going to toss out in the garbage, you're making money. You're building up your company, your brand.
Yeah. You're building yourself up.
Learning, by increasing that passion, by becoming who you want to become. And this is you know what this is what it takes to make it in the industry. So yeah, absolutely. Your brand is everything. So, you know, and it's not just artistic, by the way, it's your soft skills as well. It's your communication, it's who you are as a person. It's where you want to be, it's whether you are someone people want to work with or not. That's an incredibly important thing. You know, much rather in my team of animators, and I've had team after team after team, and I've dealt with so many different types of people. I would much rather deal with someone whose animation skills is a 6 or 7, but is pleasant and easy to work with, than someone who is negative, difficult to work with, but their animation skills is a 10.
Yeah. Because it has an impact on the whole team.
Exactly.
And your time, leading them.
Yep. And on you. Because guess what? You can be as passionate as you want, but once pressure is cooking, deadlines, that passion takes a side step, the back seat, and it becomes just, again, it's not passion, it's desperation. Desperation to get the shot done, get the work done. And when you've got a Debbie Downer in the team.
Oh, man.
Who's an Eeyore instead of a Tigger in your team.
That's right. Yeah. That's a burden on your back, different, huh?
Yeah.
Have a nice day, Eeyore. I got other plans.
I'm so happy we're doing this, man. I'm so happy that you know, we finally got you in iAnimate. I mean, we worked hard. We talked a lot, and I'm really excited. I'm really thrilled for all the students. I have to say, I'm really thrilled.
Well, my career now is almost 2 decades long, and the first job I had was with you, Rich. So that's how long we've known each other.
That's killer, man. Very, very cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, man, I'm happy. And when you're talking about that, I keep on talking. I'm gonna pull out a picture, man.
Now, you've been in the, so you're gonna pull a picture from back in the day?
Oh boy.
All right.
You're gonna pull out my afro.
Just to show you some of my love for animation. I got some vintage collectible of Frankie. Look at that.
Wow.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I got this.
All right, so all those listening by audio, you got to check out the video podcast too.
All right, you know what? My turn.
Uh-oh. See? You want to know what iAnimate is about. This is like real passion. It's a competition, you know. I have the picture. I have the picture of Frank and Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
This is before Disney was open. Hook. Oh, yeah. Look at him. Where's competition?
Oh, treasure cat.
Yeah. Look at him. That's
nice.
Awesome.
Now you watch. Remember this?
Oh yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know. For those who don't know, Omar, when he was at Ubisoft, if I remember correctly, Omar was one of the first person of color to be a director, and he was a director on different projects, and he was one of the first person to be a director at Ubisoft.
Very cool.
Of color, yeah. And look at this. This is before Disney was built. This is the land. When Walt Disney was building.
Man,
this is just the land. Just to show you, like, yeah, I know. But yeah, no one. A lot of people don't know that. So
very cool.
We've been doing this for a while.
So now, okay, so let's segue now, because you've been in the industry for 20 years. You've been, as you mentioned earlier, you've been a director. You've headed up teams. You've supervised. You've animated. You've been in the trenches there. You were started out there in CG over at Pinocchio 3000. How did that get from there to now?
It started off in
couple decades here.
It started off in 1997 in 2D. While I was working in 2D, like I said before, lifting up boxes or scanning or coloring or comping. While I was doing that, I was studying animation. So CJEP, all of CJEP, which is the last 2 years of high school for those who are in the States, and 3 years of university was while I was actually working in the animation industry. Then I transferred from 2D to 3D on Pinocchio 3000, which is a full. Then I left the full feature world for about 9 years, 9.5, almost 10 years at Ubisoft in AAA games.
Okay.
So on everything from Prince of Persia to Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, Splinter
Cell, yeah.
All of the stuff that came out of Ubisoft, we were doing, because we were working, Rich and I, we were working in the cinematic department. So all the cinematics that needed to be done for all of these games, we were touching up. All of the trailers we were doing as well.
Yeah,
so,
the E3 trailers, all of them. Yeah.
That's it. Until I got a phone call from a certain Emil Gorayib me on the phone telling me, you need to work with me and work on Riddick. So at that point, so I went from being a junior baby animator on Pinocchio to then going into Ubisoft and then going from junior to mid, from mid to senior, from senior to lead, from lead to supervisor or director, whatever the title was at the time. For 9 years, for a good 8 years, I was director or lead or supervisor. Then I transferred from video games into VFX. Once I went to VFX, I had to start all over again.
Okay.
So I went down to senior animator for 1 year, and then quickly became lead animator at Framestore for another year. And then I became animation supervisor at MPC for 2 years, and then head of animation at MPC, where I was responsible for not only bringing in contracts to MPC, but going on set, going into movies, talking to producers, talking to directors. If ever there was a fire, I would help put out all the hires, all the fires, all of that I was responsible for.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and we were talking about a big team of animators of 220.
Whew.
So massive teams. So when I say, the Eeyores and the Tiggers and, I know what I'm saying, dealing with all kinds of personalities. Anyway, to then going from head of animation to animation director, where I am working directly with the director, ensure that his or her vision is respected for the film.
Very cool.
All the while, for the past 13 years, I was teaching animation. I started teaching animation at Cégep de Matane, and then at Cégep du Vieux-Montréal, and then at Dawson College. And now I'm very happy and proud to be at iAnimate.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome. Hey, turn off your light in the background.
Oh yeah.
Turn off the light. Yeah. But I mean, the stories that the story and talent that we bring is serious. Like you mentioned this, Larry, and it's really important. And I really find it's extremely important. We don't just let anyone teach iAnimate. They're a true talent, I like to say they're a beast. You're learning to fight with gladiators, right? They really know animation, and you're going to learn and train with directors, right? This is not like, hey, I've been animating 5 years, I'm going to show you what I know. No,
right.
We are leading industries. We're part of industry. We're pushing a lot. I don't know if I remember at Ubisoft, we had this big assembly, and Omar was working on helping pushed the medium at Ubisoft and did this cool facial animation, which we weren't known for. We weren't known for pushing the quality. And he had this really big piece that was going to be opened up at Ubisoft. And this is the type of talent you get. It's someone that is part of the industry and pushing the industry and representing, the future. So I'm, again,
thank you,
man.
Yeah.
The beast. That's why I was like, hey, man, it's time. It's time.
He gave me that call. It was a nice phone call, actually.
Yeah, out of the blue. I was like, hey, man, I'm calling you up. Welcome to the big leagues.
Yeah.
Was the transition difficult from gaming to VFX for you, or was it, that same kind of work ethic just brought you through and the passion brought you through, or what was that transition like?
I have a lot of love and respect for video games, but in the end, really the biggest games that I play is games like Street Fighter, honestly. I'm not that much of a gamer, although I respect the medium very much, and I understand. I mean, it has my son. It took my son over.
And it's taking the industry,
I've always been a film person. I'm
narrative story.
Big time.
Always.
I don't want to be. I want to be able to explore animation in its core at 100% always. And I don't want. Oftentimes in video games, that what you end up having is you have restrictions of the
responsiveness and stuff.
Responsiveness. You have to cut off a couple of frames here. You have to, which is absolutely necessary. I mean, it's not. When you play a video game, you're not sitting there watching beautiful animation to just enjoy the animation.
Right.
You have to be responsive. So because of it goes back to passion. Because of my love and passion for film, it was very easy for me.
Gotcha.
I already had an understanding of how it works. The details were missing, like the plate, the layout, the match, the roto animation, how all these pieces come together, how you can't be touching this, and the methodology of it all was missing, but the philosophy behind it, the overall picture, the forest from the trees, that I understood.
Gotcha.
And not only that, but I was so incredibly grateful to go back into film after 10 years of video games.
Reignited your passion, right?
Exactly. It's exactly my passion, my number one passion. So because of that, it just became very easy for me to, all the information that I absorbed it once. I didn't have to go through it twice, 3 times, 4 times. It just sunk in for some reason.
Gotcha.
And I just ran with it.
Looking at your bio and as well as your reel, was there any particular ones that, movies that have stood out to you? I noticed Paddington on there, which is a fantastic film. You mentioned earlier just about your love for animals. Was that a highlight for you? Was there anything in that one particularly that
like
you?
The giant wolf, man.
Yeah, I think I'm a sentimental person, and so when I first got into VFX again, it was for me Riddick. To me, working at Moko Studio on Riddick was a really beautiful experience because of the fact that it was my first back into the VFX world.
Gotcha.
I loved Paddington Bear. I was surrounded by animation beasts. These guys were masters at their craft and learned tremendously. I loved Jupiter Ascending, despite the movie being absolutely horrible. But because it was my first jump as a lead animator. I loved Goosebumps because it was my first animation supervisor role.
Gotcha.
I loved Call of the Wild because it was my first animation director role. So, I love them all, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's the way to go. That's how you have to approach it, because it's the passion that helps you move forward.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, oh man, this is just a stepping stone to my next project, or I'm just gonna tough it out and, finish the show, and it's not gonna work out.
Right.
I want to love my Mondays. My Monday morning are precious to me. So
yeah, love the journey, not the destination, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The destination will always change. It's the journey that always stays the same.
Yeah.
What
I enjoy about that too. Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I said craft that experience, craft that journey, make the most of it. Every moment. You said, it might not be the best project or the project you want, but make the most of it.
Yeah,
you know what? You're paid to animate. You're paid to learn. You're paid to enjoy your craft. Take that challenge and say, all right, you know, well, maybe it's to be a crazy schedule, but it's like, you know what, this piece here, I'm going to push it and see where I can take it. Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I come from an athletic background, and so one of those things, it's always that idea of, okay, you know, what did I do from that match or whatever that now I take to the next one here? What did I do well? What did I do wrong? And it's always taking something in that. And that sounds like what you were talking about here. It's a, hey, you know, maybe it wasn't the best, you know, blockbuster one, but I enjoyed this from it, you know?
Absolutely.
And so it was just taking something from that you now go with you on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the people that you work with too, you know, like and every show that I've worked on, I've worked with great people. I'm very, very lucky to have great people surrounding me. And so for Jupiter Ascending, I worked with an amazing VFX supervisor who I love very, very much. For Call of the Wild, an incredible director in Chris Sanders. Every show that I worked on, and then the show that I'm working on right now is I'm really, really excited to work on with that specific director as well. So I'm always like, I'm the kind of person, again, I'm Tigger. I'm not Eeyore. I've never been Eeyore. I will never. My cup is always half full.
I'm with you.
Yeah, man.
That's
so
right.
it's the way. That's the only way to live. That's the only way to live. We get it one chance to live.
That's right.
I'm gonna go in there, but for me, I will always find the positive in any experience and any show and any team that I work with. If the pressure is hot and we are, you know, it starts to becoming a little bit difficult, then at least that pressure makes me stronger. Right. And I appreciate the pressure because I am going to grow out of it as well.
Yeah.
So that's the only way to work at it. And, you know, always, and be very careful about surrounding yourself with people that are like that as well, because it is terribly contagious when you're sitting next to somebody that's negative. And I, in the past, requested to change my seats because people that are next to me that I felt were bringing me down in any which way.
Gotcha.
You know, animation is so artistic that I need to be over here. I need to be healthy. You know, if I've got a storm happening here, showing my work, and I need to be good up here.
Nice.
Yeah,
for
one
sure.
thing I say to all the animators that I work with, or any team I work with, is pick the people, right? Projects are cool and they'll be finished, but you want to pick the people you work with. Even I was talking to my producers. It's like I chose my producer because I want that person to be my producer. I enjoy. I want to pick someone that you're going to see that person more you see your own family, right?
Absolutely.
We're talking, you do 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours, you know, because you're trying to, you know, really push this shot. You're going to see them more than you're going to see your own family or your wife or your loved one, right? So pick the people that you're going to enjoy being with, because they're going to be an extension of you. And like Omar says, keep that creativity healthy. Keep it going. Don't neglect it, or don't let anyone mess up the mojo, you know, your creative mojo. So,
and I'll say a couple more things. I just want to, because I know we have about 8 minutes left. I want to, it's very important that animators continue feeding their curiosity and their artistic side. Oftentimes what people end up doing is they treat animation as work. And what do they do when they go home? They chill and they relax because they've been working all day. I understand that, and I sympathize, and you know, we're all humans. But once that becomes routine and it takes hold of who you think you are as a person, you're the kind of person who at home, once I'm at home, man, don't talk to me about anything. I just want to watch TV. I just want to play video games. I just want to chill. You know, the problem with that is that you will continue to grow as an animator, yes, but that's all you are. You're an animator. What happened to your other sides as well? Like you say, Larry, you're into sports. What are other activities and other passions that, despite the fact you may think, hey, no, I need to focus on animation. Having other passions is your passion of animation.
Yeah.
Because when you succeed at multiple things, what does that do?
It feeds in
confidence.
Yeah.
Boosts your self-esteem. So then once you approach a new shot, a difficult shot, hey, I can do it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Do you know how, you know what? I could play the piano. If I could play the piano, I could
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Seriously.
Yeah.
It can be something as far removed from animation as you may think, like bass fishing. I love bass fishing. I love.
You never taken me, right? You never invited me. I'm
We
just
can go
calling you out
anytime.
on this on the
We'll
podcast.
go anytime.
Every now and then, we have this love, right? I always find a moment to tease Omar, so that was it. It's like, you didn't invite me. What's up with that? You know.
And my poor wife has to deal with all of these new obsessions that I have. You know, like if it's not, you know, dude. I mean, it's some of the stuff is really weird. Like everything from sculpting with polymer clay, which I absolutely love to do, to oil painting. I do oil paintings of my children's. I do fantasy portrait paintings of my children. I've got my son riding a saber-toothed tiger.
Oh, very cool.
And I've got my daughter jumping in the air with the ice fox and the fire fox. And
Nice.
I'm doing right now, my youngest daughter is riding an owl, a big magic owl.
Oh, that's cool.
Painting, to breeding praying mantises, to raising a bunch of chickens in the chicken coop.
Very cool.
Going bass fishing. It's just what I want to say is live your life. Find other things that also make you happy.
Right.
Also needs that passion and keeps you out of the couch, out of the watching TV all day or YouTube or social media or video games.
Yeah.
You know, there's more to life than just you being an animator. Don't just stick to just animation alone. You know, there's again, it helps you with your self-esteem. It helps boost your confidence. And when you know that and time passes fast, man, there's so much I can talk about. When you start, let's say, for example, something as difficult as oil painting. The first time I started oil painting was 10 years ago. You know how fast 10 years pass?
Yeah.
And you know when you do 10 years of something, how good you become?
Yeah, I seen his stuff. He showed me some cool stuff, and I was like, what? And I was like, man,
You know, so
I don't remember
that's what ends up
that.
happening. So jump on a new skill and start having a second passion that you have, or a third or a fourth, because time passes quick. And if you stick to it, you end up becoming really, really good at it.
And it feeds that process of just learning and getting better at something. And I think that, like you said, it feeds into animation because it's that same philosophy. I want to continue to grow.
You'd be shocked to see just how many philosophies animation has that are exactly the same when you're modeling, when you're sculpting, when you're painting, when you're bass fishing. It's always the same philosophy. Number 1, prepare. Number 2, reference. Number 3, don't give up.
Yeah.
Number 4, question what you're doing. You know, there's all of these, and it goes on and on and on. I love UFC, right? I love MMA. Okay? I was desperate to get Faraz Zahabi to give a speech to the folks at MPC, because fighting is exactly the same as animating. It's the same. These people train their tails off. They're only as good as their last fight.
Yeah.
And that happens in animation.
Yeah.
You have 10 shots in a row that you blitz through and you're the bomb. Amazing, Omar. Amazing, Omar. And then you trip and fall on one shot. Omar, you suck.
You have to fight again.
That's what I say. What do you have to do? I have to get back up. I have to go again. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
killer, man. Okay.
Man. Yeah.
I kind of half tempted to leave off on that, but I want to ask you, because, we've had guys have been in here, girls have been in here, been in the, gaming industry, and they're excited about it for certain reasons, things like that. What is it in the VFX and even feature to a certain degree that you're excited about as it continues to move forward?
The journey itself.
Okay.
I'm just excited about meeting new people, seeing where my career goes, enjoying my story. I'm in the middle of my story right now, and I'm at the peak of it, and I'm enjoying the ride, and I'm curious to know what's next. At the same time, my eyes on the ball, and I'm focused on the one project that I'm at. At the same time, giving back to all of my beautiful animation students that I absolutely love. I've got animator students that I've taught 10, 13 years ago that are now animation directors at Gameloft and Ubisoft, and it's just, oh my God, if I talk about it long enough, it gets me emotional. So it's the journey itself is what I look forward to.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, we're, like Rick has mentioned, we are very happy to have you here. I know you've been teaching in a workshop here. You'll be teaching again in January. So we really appreciate not only your time in this podcast, but just being one of our instructors and giving back into the community. So thank you very much,
you,
Omar.
Thank you so much. Man.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Larry.
All right, man. With that, we're out.
Peace.